the deep dive. Welcome Jibber Jabbers. Today's deep dive, as voted for by the Jibber Jabber Facebook community, is Meet Joe Black. That's right. A 90s movie where you see the Grim Reaper himself possess Brad Pitt's body in a bid to have his own human-like journey with the guidance of Anthony Hopkins' character, William Parrish. The Reaper himself makes a deal to prolong Parrish's death in return for some guidance among the human realm. Meet Joe Black boasts a 7.2 out of 10 rating on IMDb and remains one of the movies your friends will forever say, "You need to watch that." So today, Jay and I will discuss our recent viewing of Meet Joe Black, released on 15th of January 1999. Jay, how are we this week?
I'm fantabulous, my friend. How are you?
I'm actually not bad. I'm doing alright. I'm glad we got here to episode 2 of the deep dive, where episode 1, Schindler's List, happens to be our most viewed episode to date.
That's probably just because I cried like a biatch.
Do you think that's why? Do you think that was the selling point?
I think people wanted to know what made me cry.
Do you not think it has nothing to do with my editing skills?
Oh, very possibly.
Nah. Yeah, I think it has a very emotional tag to it. So the episode this week is obviously Meet Joe Black, where the Jibber Jabbers on the Jibber Jabber Facebook community page, you can find it on Facebook. There was a vote between Meet Joe Black and The Champ, and Meet Joe Black won. I'd say it was pretty close. I think it was a difference of 3 votes.
Last I seen it, after the decision was made that that's what we were doing, I seen it was 9-8.
9-8.
9-8. That was the last one I seen. So
very,
that's
very
effing
close.
close.
Maybe Champ will win another deep dive at some point if it's included in the mix. But again, and do you know what I find just bizarre? That each deep dive that we've done so far happens to be 3 bloody hours long, man. Like, can we get a shorter deep dive?
It's a deep dive into a deep movie.
It's a deep, deep dive. So, speaking of deep, deep, deep dive, nah, I'm only kidding. So how was
Are you for scuba?
What?
Are you for scuba?
Aye.
Yeah. Anyway, cracking
So,
landscape.
how was watching Meet Joe Black for the first time in a long time for you, J Mac?
I've always liked it. I seen it probably within a year of it first coming out, and I actually enjoyed it even more now than I did the last time I watched it. I mean, when it came out in 1999, I'd have been about 15. Now, most 15-year-old boys really wouldn't be into a film like this, because it is quite a kind of somber affair. It's not a crazy action film. It's no full of shagging. You know what I mean? It's not something that a lot of boys at that age would kind of sit and watch, especially with it being 3 hours long. But I always liked it, and like I said, it actually affected me even more now. I think actually getting a bit older kind of makes it a bit more relatable.
Absolutely, I don't think it was something I could have watched as a child. One thing that I really have to ask: do you think this movie could have been made shorter? Like, do you think it had to be 2 hours and 58 minutes long?
Well, I've been giving some thought to that, because it does seem like one of these types of films that really doesn't have to be that long. You could do that story normally in the space of an hour 45, 2 hours. But as much as I thought about it and racked my brain over it, I couldn't think of anything that I would take out. Do you know what I mean? Although it seems long-winded for that type of film, I genuinely can't think of anything that I would take out. Not a thing.
No, I've got to say though, I really enjoyed the 2 main stars, obviously Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt. They were really good, and their chemistry was really good. One thing that I really enjoyed was the scene where Brad Pitt decides he's Jamaican. Like, I'm going to assume, right, that the reason he went Jamaican is because, being the Reaper, if he's going to communicate with anybody in the Earth realm, he's going to be able to speak all languages and all accents. So I think in order to communicate with her, he probably felt it was best for him to take on the Jamaican persona.
Hmm. To try and make it now, he'd probably get accused of cultural appropriation.
God.
But no, I was actually it offered a wee bit of light relief to that scene because it was quite heavy.
Yeah.
It was quite a kind of sad bit, or one of the sad bits anyway.
Were you crying?
Nah, actually, no, not that bit.
Oh, well, we'll get into that then. We'll get into that.
But he actually done quite a good job with it. No man, I am holiday.
It was actually really, really, really good on Brad's acting ability. For you, who do you think was the standout actor in that movie?
See, to be honest, I mean, Anthony Hopkins is always brilliant. Brad Pitt, I actually think I mentioned in one of our previous podcasts. I'm not actually a huge Brad Pitt fan, but I think in this film it kind of suited him, because he was basically playing a character that had to show very little emotion for most of the film. But I've said it before, I have seen him in things where he's been amazing. 12 Monkeys, his performance in that's fucking amazing.
Yeah, 12 Monkeys, aye.
You need to watch 12 Monkeys, it's fucking
Oh,
amazing.
Connie. Oh, well.
And actually a couple of special mentions for a couple of people in it. Jeffrey Tambor and Jake Weber. That was Quince and Drew. Both of them.
Mayor of Whotown. Whoville.
Aye. The both of them were really good. Jake Weber was such a prick that you would swear he was like that in real life.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey Tambor, you felt so sorry for him all the way through. He just couldn't do anything right. And then he ended up kind of assisting in the undoing of William Parrish's career as such.
Well.
Totally unwillingly and unwittingly. But those two were great. Claire Forlani was really good. She's got beautiful eyes as well. And I don't think nobody in it was bad. The best is probably going to be Anthony Hopkins, always is.
Yeah, I do believe he delivered when it came to this movie for sure. Anthony Hopkins, this was the second time him and Brad Pitt had been in a movie together, and Brad Pitt holds him in such high esteem, based on his ability to act, and not only that, but to take someone like Brad Pitt under his wing whilst on a movie. Are you thinking to yourself, what movie were they in together before?
Yeah, I am. How can you tell?
It was Legends of the Fall.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
What?
Nah, I haven't. I've not seen that before. I know of it. I know Brad Pitt's got long hair in it, and Anthony Hopkins has a stroke that apparently is comic. It can be quite comical. Just like.
You've had a stroke, haven't you?
Maybe. So never seen it, but thanks for letting me know.
Definitely check it out. Do you know, like I says, for me, I found this movie, right, because I sat with a wife and watched it, and she fell asleep and complained the whole way through it, saying it was boring, right? But for me, I always try and take away a nugget. I call them nuggets, like little golden nuggets, something you can take away from a movie that makes the movie worthwhile watching. So for me, the nugget I took away from this movie was perception, and how our perceptions of things aren't always how they are. When you look or you say the Grim Reaper's in a movie, automatically I was expecting somebody to be getting cut up, stabbed and pan-breed. I was expecting death to be a horrible thing.
I think he was going to be running about like he was at the end of the interview with the vampire.
Right, exactly. Right, I expected, the Grim Reaper to be doing some reaping, but instead I saw a different view on what the Grim Reaper actually is. And I even said it to my wife, and she just looked at me like I was stupid. I says, it was in that scene where the woman's in her bed and she's like, "Here, boy, just take away my pain, get rid of me, boy, pan breed me, boy." And he's like, it's not your time, it's not your time. And I was thinking to myself, she's in pain, absolute pain, right? And he's there as the Grim Reaper, and he's taken away her pain, right? So he's bringing death to her, but he's relieving her of pain. So as much as the Grim Reaper's job may be viewed as something sadistic, I don't actually think it is. I think it's actually quite poetic, and how he takes you away from something you were in before, and how he does it is peaceful. He's putting you from one place to another. He's a transporter.
That particular scene kind of made me think about the whole assisted suicide thing and how it should be allowed. If somebody's of sound mind and body that's in so much pain that they're not going to get better, you might as well just suffocate them with a pillow. You know what I mean?
Well, not quite. I'd like to do the Brad Pitt approach if it was someone I loved, but
just touch them and stare at them until they die.
Let's just imagine they were going to somewhere special, boy. Yeah.
I don't think it ever says boy.
I'm pretty sure it does. It might have. I can't remember. What did you take away? What was the standout part for your golden nugget? What did you take away for that movie?
Basically, it kind of makes you assess how you're living your life and if you are being as good a person as you can be, and just not to waste the opportunities that life gives you. That's
I don't
what
think
I took from
Anthony
it.
Hopkins did. Yeah.
No, see that's the thing. He's it's actually the second film that I can think of where he's played a billionaire who's actually a good person. Because normally billionaires are just any movie that involves a billionaire. It's either a tycoon that's fucked a whole group of people out of their pensions and they're trying to get them back for it, or they're taking like what's that bloody film, Brewster's Millions, where they basically just get a black guy to see if he can spend money and trading places, stuff like that. The billionaires. Yeah, the billionaires are always the dickheads, but that's twice now that he's played the billionaire that's actually really a good person, and he actually helps people that are worse than him. Not in this film. I'm talking about The Edge.
The
Edge with Alec Baldwin.
God, that's when was it the snowy one?
Yeah, even though Alec Baldwin's character had been pumping his wife, he still was trying to save his life in this kind of situation that they were stuck in.
Stuck in. Nice wording.
Stuck
He's
in,
getting
man.
stuck into his wife. Getting stuck into my wife. I'm here to help you.
It was Elle Macpherson. Who the fuck wouldn't he? So, yeah, just don't waste your opportunities and be as good a person as you can be to your family and friends. And don't take shit for anybody.
That was a nice takeaway from that. Jan Dorian, the last of all mankind, known as Explorians.
Yeah.
I really, as much as Meet Joe Black, it is a good movie, right? And it's a movie people have said to me for years, you need to check it out. In regards to how good it was, I'm not going to say that it was outstanding. I say it was good. It was entertaining, and there's a good love story behind it, where the woman that he falls in love with sees, as much, what's actually quite funny is she meets him for like 5 minutes in a coffee shop, like the first Brad Pitt before he gets pan-breed. And she's like, I like you a lot, and he's like, I like you a lot, and they only had coffee, right? And then she meets a different guy who is the Reaper in Brad Pitt's body, falls in love with him without really knowing him, and then when he's gone and they bring back, oh no, I'm not going to give you any spoilers there, hold myself back. But towards the end, when she realises that the Reaper's away, she realises this. For me, I didn't buy the love story between them. I bought the love story between Anthony Hopkins and his daughter, and Anthony Hopkins and the kinship he had with Brad Pitt, but I didn't buy the love between the Anthony Hopkins' daughter and Brad Pitt. I just didn't buy it.
I can see why. I can see where you're coming from on it, but I think if that scene in the coffee shop hadn't happened, imagine that he just showed up. She wouldn't have fallen in love with him because she would have had nothing to base it off, because he would have walked
She would
in
have
as
had nothing to base it off.
No.
Brad Pitt walks into your house and you don't have nothing to base falling in love with him off.
Aye, but even if you look like Brad Pitt, if you've got the personality of a fucking waffle, you're not going to get anywhere. Well, it's not going to last anyway.
Especially if you're the Grim Reaper. No, you did. I know what you're doing, boy.
So, I think that if it wasn't for that meeting in the coffee shop, she wouldn't have fallen in love with him. But she's already had this kind of preconceived idea of who he is. So when he shows up again, she's like, "Oh, I love this guy," or "I really like this guy. He's a wee bit different, but I really like that guy. So let me try and bring this guy out again." And I don't. What was I trying to say? I think that without that element, that could have been the element that would have made the film a shitload shorter. But then it wouldn't give any depth to the character of Death at all, because although he does develop kind of some kind of kinship with William Parrish, it's not really it's not anything to really speak of. The really basically what's happened is Death has come to Earth, and a human woman who happens to be lovely has managed to convince Death that he's needing his hole.
As you know, right, one thing I really liked about the movie is, for me, I've got to say, Anthony Hopkins was the standout actor for me in that movie. What I really liked about his character is, you see from, he's obviously having chest pains. He's asking himself a question: am I dying? Death shows up and is like, "You are going to be pan-breed, but let me just slow that down for you. If I can kick a boot, hang out with you, maybe we'll not take you just yet." And as much as he's like, "Oh, okay," he's not a man that lives in hope of like convincing Death to let him live. Like very, very early on, he starts to accept that he's going to die, and you see that when he's talking about selling his company. He's like, "No, I built this. I want to leave something behind." He starts to accept the fact he's on borrowed time. Also,
I think that only Anthony Hopkins could have played a character that would act that way. Like, imagine like Death was to come to me, for example, and say, "I want you to kind of show me a good time. The longer you can show me a good time, show me what happens in life, then the longer I'll let you live." First thing I'd be doing is like, "You want to go to the pictures, mate?" Do you know? Or you want to go to the pub? It's like, this is what I do. But Anthony Hopkins basically just took him to work. And he introduced him to his family and that. Well, he actually never chose to do that. Death told him, it's like, "No, I'm having dinner with you and your family. This is what we're doing." And it's like, no, everybody would think to just show him what you do on a day-to-day basis, not try and impress him to keep him around. And keep yourself alive.
Yeah,
keep yourself alive. Taking all your time and the money to keep me satisfied.
He didn't try and be the absolute opportunistic person. He just he accepted it. He knew he was ready for the pan breed.
How good was the acting at the heart attack scene, the first heart attack, when he was in his office? I'm saying the first heart attack, the only heart attack. When he's in his office, he honestly, man, I can nearly feel that heart attack when he's having it.
He's like,
it's such a clever use of kind of music and atmospheric kind of sounds as well. Like, I don't know if you noticed it, but every time like his heart was doing something it shouldn't be, you could hear this kind of really low boom, like for like a timpani or a bass drum or something.
Yeah.
And it worked really well, and again his acting was phenomenal at that.
Also, am I right in thinking that the Reaper's voice was actually Anthony Hopkins until he revealed himself as Brad Pitt?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah, it was. I've never given much thought as to why that was the case. I suppose it could be, unless it was your mum's voice or something, your own voice could be the most comforting voice in that situation.
Or or it's what I alluded to earlier, that he just tries to mimic you in order to help you understand, like as an understanding, because he knows one thing that Death doesn't know is a lot about Earth, hence why he's there to check it out, right? So what if he can just mirror anything that anybody says and how they say it and the way they say it, and maybe that's his only way of, like, if I'm going to communicate with something, I might as well clone how it sounds and speaks so that it understands me, and that would make sense why he turned into a Rasta boy when he talked to the woman in the hospital thing. Do you not think?
Very possibly. It could be just in those circumstances what somebody would need is a sense of familiarity. I mean, if I was having a heart attack, if I was to hear Death come in and be like, "Yes, you're dying," I'd probably be more likely that my heart's going to give out at that fucking moment. Do you know what I mean? But I have never given much thought to that before, so thanks for that, Kev.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm here for. Be here all week.
One thing I really loved about Meet Joe Black is the kind of sweet sense of humour that it's got. There's nothing really that's laugh out loud funny, or certainly nothing that fucking should be, Kevin. Jesus Christ, man. It's like, oh, Brad Pitt got pinballed.
He got pinballed, he got a Syrian. And he's just like, when he's looking back, my wife goes, he's going to get ran over. I was like, nah, he's in the movie. And then he's just like, and I was like, bah!
Mate, the first time I seen that, I was shocked. Do you know why? God. Because I'd never seen anything like that before. I'd never seen a scene cut together like that where there was basically no cuts. It was a single shot of him getting absolutely wiped out.
God.
And it looked sore.
God, it looked a sore one.
So there was like a few kind of funny moments. The peanut butter thing was pretty funny. And there's actually, if you look, it's the bit where he's in the kitchen talking to the catering staff and they let him taste it, and he walks away with the spoon, just keeps licking it. See, if you watch, I don't know if he just did this off his own back, like I don't know if he just kind of ad-libbed it, because you can barely see it, but as he walks out the door and turns left, he's literally making the goofiest face I've ever seen in my life. He's like this, honestly. Obviously, people listening can't see this, but he just goes like this. He turns left. So, right, I'm going to do it the other way. So, what you see is him walking out, and then he just goes.
I'm going to watch it for that.
It's the goofiest face. I've screenshot it. I'm going to send it to you once I'm off the phone.
How about if this gets more listens than the first deep dive episode, then Jordan will reenact it and put it on the Jibber Jabber community Facebook page.
Fucking great idea, Kevin. Thank you.
That sounds good.
And one other moment that made me chuckle was it was when Jeffrey Tambor's character Quince was kind of confiding in him. He was confiding in Death about the situation with William Parrish, and he was kind of crying, and he put his head down, and Brad Pitt just put his hand on top of his baldy head and just patted it. It's like there.
Aye, he goes, puts his hand over.
You can hear like a wee slapping noise like this too.
That's true. Do you know, I really like Brad Pitt's, because Death is sarcasm and stuff's lost on him. So when the guy's like, it's a sure thing, it's death and taxes, and he's like, death and taxes? Yeah, death and taxes. He's like, why does that go together? It always goes together. He's like, why? It's like, it doesn't matter. Why'd you bring it up then? he's just
You could understand Drew's frustration at him at that point. You're just like,
absolutely.
Like, is this guy deliberately being a dick, or is he thick?
I tried to see it through Drew's eyes in certain ways. I'm like, fair enough. Brad Pitt shows up, right? Obviously much better looking than Drew, and he starts getting with his misses. He's the new number 2 almost, and so you can kind of understand his frustration. Brad Pitt's literally just stepped into his shoes, so you can kind of understand why he's a wee bit hacked off. Do you know what I mean? The way his missus looks at him.
Definitely, but I think to to steal her dad's company for it. It's a bit of a wank way to deal with the situation. You know what I
He
mean?
was always a mole, though, wasn't he? We're spoiling for people. I haven't seen it. In fact, it came out in '98. You should have seen it by now. I mean, you voted for us to watch it, so...
Yeah, you know what? We're doing a deep dive. If you're listening to it, we're going to assume you've seen it, right?
Absolutely.
There's no point in doing a deep dive on something that somebody hasn't seen, or listening to a deep dive that somebody hasn't seen.
If you haven't, you should go and see it. It's not on Netflix. However, you could probably find it on DVD. Or VHS.
I watched it on DVD, but I think you can also get it on Amazon Prime, but you'll probably have to pay for it.
Exactly. You'll buy the subscription, and then you'll have to pay for the movie separate.
It's like, £80 a year, and that gets you next day delivery, and you also get access to Amazon Prime. Oh, great! Do I get to watch films and that? It's like, no, you get access to the menus, mate.
Where we'll let you buy the films. like, I feel like I've been screwed. When I first put Amazon Prime on, I'm like, alright, this is just like Netflix. You pay, and then you get to watch. Nah.
Another thing I'd like to say about the film is how well it's actually shot. There's certain sequences where the cinematography is actually beautiful, considering most of the film actually kind of takes place indoors. But the scene at the end at his 65th birthday party, I think it's the scene where he's standing with Claire Forlani, and they're looking at fireworks going off in the background, and it was just a really, really nicely shot bit, really well lit, and really atmospheric. Also, something I don't talk about very often is not just about this film, but in general, I don't talk about sex scenes very often because I find them really pretty gratuitous and stupid these days. When you're 14, it's great, but I found that the sex scene that eventually happens in this film, it was really, really tasteful. It's like you almost feel like you were there.
You're fucking her.
You almost feel like you were there, and excuse me, burping away here. I had haggis tonight.
Haggis.
Oh, pardon me. I think it felt like a necessary sex scene as well. And like, I felt like without that, the film probably couldn't have progressed. It was pretty beautifully shot.
Did it go into the bank?
Did it go to the bank?
Did that scene end up in your bank?
No.
Nah,
to quote Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that.
So with that being the sex scene, we'll move on to what was, and this is a regular stay here on the deep dive episodes. What was your most memorable scene from that movie, Jandorian?
There's two. The first one for me was, like we spoke about earlier, was actually when he gets run over. It's just, you just kind of sit there going, well, if you're me, you sit there going, what the fuck? If you're Kevin, you piss yourself laughing and have to get changed. Another moment for me was quite near the end, where Anthony Hopkins' character Bill, I keep saying Bill Parrish, is talking with Susan, his daughter, and basically telling her to live her life well and don't have regrets and stuff like that. It was just a really nice kind of tender moment, and I think it's at that moment that she realises that there's something going on and that he knows he's on his way out. I don't know if it's maybe he'd never spoken to her that way before or something, but there was some cracking acting at that bit, and that was the bit that brought a tear to my eye this time, son.
Oh, do you know? Right, before you get to your next... Oh no, you've said both your scenes, right? I have a memorable scene, but before I tell you that, I'd like to talk about just one scene that probably has been looked over, right? There's a part, so obviously William Parrish has two... what was that?
My fire fell over, hang on.
Your fire fell over. God. That could be exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan is just preventing himself from being burned.
It's okay, I've repaired it.
So yeah, before you about to set your house on fire. Yes, there's a scene where so William Parrish, Anthony Hopkins, his character, has two daughters. The youngest being the one that Brad Pitt falls in love with. The older one is the chick from Flubber. You know who I'm talking about?
Marsha Gay Harden.
Right? And
That's a funny
right,
name.
there's
by
a
the way.
nice wee scene with her. Right? There's a nice wee scene with her towards the end, right? Where it's her farewell scene with her dad. And he basically goes down, he's like, oh, this is a great party, blah blah blah, and she's like, you've always loved my wee sister more than me. It's alright, I know you love me, you just love her more and all that. And his reply, oh, oh, thanks for a lovely party. She didn't even get a goodbye. He's just like, oh well, thanks for the nice party, you've done well.
Maybe they had different mums, and like her mum was an absolute fucking whore.
God.
I don't know. But I think that we were saying about making the film a bit shorter. I think they could have actually made it a bit longer and delved into their relationship a wee bit more.
Aye, like what there should be a Meet Joe Black part 2 where she comes back with like guns blazing. You know, my dad never loved me. Like what the hell though? He doesn't even say goodbye, daughter. I've always loved you as much as I loved your sister. Or just that moment where you're like, no, this is the part where he's going to make her feel happy. He's going to turn around and tell her that she's always been, you know, just give her a little gem before he leaves. You know, because he's going to say goodbye to his other daughter, which he loves so much. This daughter who's been bursting her arse to give him the best party of his life, and he's basically just shunned her the whole movie. And then she's like,
the thing is, I think everybody's parents, right? If there's more than one child, the parents have got a favourite. They'll never fucking admit it, but they've got a favourite. So even if the one that's not the favourite says, is that other one your favourite? The correct thing to do is just to say, I love yous both the same. But he didn't do that. He was just like, cheers for the party, doll.
That's true. And then then he goes and tells his other daughter he loves her, and this is the scene that brings a tear to your eye. You know,
Yeah.
live a life. Yet the other daughter's just like, yeah, cheers for the party.
And you never see her again.
Right. And I just thought, fucking, what? We were saying how good Anthony Hopkins was all the way through this movie, right? What a fucking prick, man. What a prick. What a shit dad.
That was the
To her,
typical
anyway.
Hollywood billionaire coming out of that scene, I think.
Aye, exactly. So, back to my memorable scene, bar that, right? Because that sticks in my head, right? But my memorable scene was when you saw the other side of death, when he's relieving the Rastafarian woman from her evil's way and allows her to die in the hospital bed. For me, it was memorable because that'll be the scene I'll forever remember, is that wee woman, oh no, he's here to get me, boy, knows that Brad Pitt's there as death, and he's like, I'm on vacation. But she didn't know that. I think because she's nearing death, she can see exactly what he is. But for me, it holds so much meaning in that scene because I got to view death a different way from how it's always perceived and how we always fear it. I didn't think it could be a nice thing, and it was. And that's why that's a really memorable scene for me.
Also, quite a funny line for that scene is, I think it's when he goes back to actually, in fact, no, is it when he first meets her? And she's saying that she doesn't want to die. And he's like, I can't do no right by people. It's like, come to take, you want to stay. Come to stay, you want to go. Rotten. It's that one, rotten. But no, that's a nice scene. It feels weird to say it's a nice scene when that person dies, but I know what you mean.
No, but it was though. It was.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, for you, was that your most memorable quote, or do you have another?
I've got two memorable quotes. They both come kind of near the end of the film. One of them is, they're both for Anthony Hopkins, and the first one is, "You're a useless sack of shit, Drew." It's like, oh, so honest. I'd love to be that honest with somebody. Just actually invite them to my house.
Like
Invite them to my house to sit them in my nice comfy chair and just tell them they're an absolute waste of space. That was great. And also, when I think Death's trying to kind of he's talking to Anthony Hopkins, and he's just reassuring him about things, and then he says, "Don't blow smoke up my arse, you'll ruin my autopsy."
That's too good. That's too good.
Not bad.
My one came from Brad Pitt's character, and Anthony Hopkins is shouting away at him, and he goes, "Careful, Bill. You'll give yourself a heart attack, and then you'll end my vacation." I just thought it was awesome. Death saying, chill out before you kill yourself, and I have to go home to it.
You may as well went, mate, fucking settle down.
Settle down, mate.
Settle down, mate, you'll fucking die.
So like I says, previously we done Schindler's List on episode 1 of the deep dive, which is not the same thing as the Jibber Jabber weekly podcast. That's not always weekly, but it's here or there, near enough. At the end, we always give our rating of 5 stars, and for me, this one was 3.5 stars. And the reason, obviously, is because I've explained it. I don't think it had to be that long. I didn't buy the love scenes, right? But there was a lot of nuggets in that movie. There's a lot of values. I was entertained. I didn't feel the need to go and read a book instead of watching it or fall asleep like my wife did.
Mm-hmm.
I actually enjoyed the movie, and I thought there was really good performances in it. So for me, it's 3.5 stars. You hear me, boy? 3.5 stars. What's your rating?
It was going to be 5, but after actually doing this, I'd probably take it down to maybe a 4.5, just because of the certain kind of silly things. Just like
he only loves one of his kids.
It's like the fact that just before he's dying, he doesn't even think to say your quality hen or anything. It's just basically a case of you're not my favourite, so cheers for organising this party that I've not been asked with for the whole film. So I do.
It's true though. Hasn't.
So wee silly things like that. Also, a special shout out to Brad Pitt's beautiful hair in that film.
It is actually so good.
He's got it's such beautiful highlighted 90s hair.
My son Harry has natural hair that's almost like that. It just reminds me of wee Harry do his hair.
Harry's not going to have that hair for long, mate. He's your spitting image.
No. They get it from the mother's side. Hair comes from the mother's side. My dad still has full hair.
Does he?
Yes, my mother's side are all this. So Harry will be alright.
I'm just picturing like your mum just looks like an old version of you.
No, I look like my dad, so they tell me.
So I would say 4.5. Maybe 4, just because some of that was a wee bit absurd. But I still love it. It's by no means a perfect film, but I think it's a really good film. It's like we were saying, really well acted, well put together, a different take on the classic death story, and an interesting spin on a love story as well. So
yeah, so it's safe to say that we've not come to the point yet where we do a deep dive and then we're like, oh, that was so shite, because rest assured, at some point there's going to be a deep dive that you and I haven't seen, and we go away and watch it. We come on this deep dive episode and we just trash it because it was terrible, right? But it's safe to say that's 2 deep dives in a row now where we're happy that these are the movies that were selected because we've enjoyed them. It's on rounding up. It's safe to say that, yeah. Would you agree?
Clearly, you people have good taste, so thank you very much for that.
Absolutely, and I really wanted you to pick the champ because I wanted Jordan to cry again.
Should we just change this from deep dive to make Jordan cry?
No, I think people will get it. And you know what? One thing I want to say to the people listening, right, and the people voting is thanks for getting involved, because you guys actually you're selecting our content for us, and that's actually it's a lot more help than what a simple click. It lets us know that you're watching, you're aware, and it's good for us to have that to bounce back and forth, and we hope we're delivering the episodes that you guys want to hear when you vote on that poll. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm assuming we're going to come to the end about now, but there's one thing I want to say It's actually not related to films at all, but I just need to say it was a great story that I read online earlier on.
We're getting an added extra here to the
Yeah,
Jibber
we
Jabber.
added extra. It was a story from America, as fucking ridiculous stories always are. But what happened was there was a police bust on what the police thought were suspected drug dealers, and turns out they busted undercover cops posing as drug dealers.
That's a movie.
It was fucking hilarious. I think it was either Detroit or Chicago. I can't remember, but basically you had the 11th precinct, who were basically the ones doing the arresting, and you had the 12th precinct that were posing as drug dealers in an undercover operation, and they fucking just ended up going in and having a big brawl. And I think there's been people suspended, and I think they've moved the supervisor to another branch and shit like that. It's funny, they always do that. It's funny, they'll always punish the little guys the most. They'll like say, right, you're suspended, you're not getting paid. But the guys that get paid more money and can probably afford not to get paid for a wee while, they're like, we'll put you somewhere else.
Anything you'd like to say in finishing, Jordan?
Yeah, why haven't you done a "and we'll be right back after this"? I know that's normally reserved for Jibber Jabber, but I'd love you to do it on this as well, because it's one of my favourite parts.
On the deep dive.
On the deep dive. Yeah, just do it now. Just say it. We'll be back after this.
You do it, and then I'll give you it. So you say it.
Okay. We're just
wait a minute. Before you say it, say we won't be back after this, and it'll be what I end the show on. Okay.
Okay. No problem.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Follow, subscribe, guys.
Like, follow, subscribe. Thanks for listening, Jibbers and Jabbers, and we won't be back after this.